My daughter constantly twisted the narrative. When she failed in her studies, I scolded her just once, but she ran to my colleagues, claiming I suffered from emotional disorder and that I'd hit and yelled at her during my episodes. I was ostracized by everyone at work. Then, a friend brought their child over to play. I simply suggested that child play with my daughter, as they were close in age and might have things in common. My daughter burst into tears, ran outside, and told the head of the Women's Association that I was going to sell her into adoption to make money. As a result, the Women's Association launched an investigation, and I was fired from my company. Later, I discovered my daughter was addicted to gambling. I wanted to help her quit, but she pushed me from the top of a tall building. Afterwards, she cried, embracing herself, as she gave an interview. My mother suffered from depression. We had a disagreement, and she fell from the building this morning. This morning, I returned to the day Fia failed her exam. Mom, I didn't mean to get low scores. Please, can you stop hitting and scolding me? Fia knelt on the floor, weeping uncontrollably, snot and tears streaming down her face. It was quitting time, and I stood at the time clock, scanning my fingerprint, a long line of colleagues waiting behind me. So when she suddenly ran up, collapsing to the ground and crying without end, everyone around was stunned. No one uttered a word. In my past life, my reaction was 100 times more shattered. I wouldn't call myself a harsh mother. I never demanded perfect scores in all subjects, only that she graduate smoothly. But she simply couldn't meet even that. Her homeroom teacher also said she often lost focus in class. I only wanted to gently guide her, yet she ran straight to my company, telling everyone I had a psychological disorder and constantly hit and yelled at her. It didn't stop there. She went on to tell the Women's Association that I wanted to sell her into adoption. I was boycotted by my colleagues, investigated and criticized by the Women's Association. The incident spread, my reputation was ruined, and eventually, I was fired from my company. After all these consequences, she showed no remorse. It was only when she discovered I was unemployed that she started to worry. But by then, she was so addicted to gambling and greedy for money that she stole our family's house deed and pawned it. When I found out, she devised a plan to take me to a high floor and push me down. Afterwards, she cried, giving an interview. My mother was depressed, she argued with me and then jumped from the building. She even took my organs and used images of an unfortunate woman to livestream and sell products, making a lot of money. Even after my death, I became content for her live streams, constantly exploited to swindle money. Thinking of the tragic end in my past life, I realized I should have dealt with it from the beginning when she was still unformed. Seeing the awkwardness on my colleagues' faces, I suppressed my anger, refusing to lay a hand on her. Fia saw everyone turning to look, and immediately switched from kneeling and crying to kowtowing, her head hitting the floor with thudding sounds. Mom, I had a fever the other day. My eyes were so heavy when I was doing my homework. Mom, please, can you stop punishing me? Don't make me starve for 3 days like last time. Tomorrow I have an 800-meter physical test, and you want to starve me for 3 days, no food? My colleagues' gazes were no different from looking at a piece of trash. Their faces were a mix of astonishment and anger. Everyone spoke up to criticize me. I couldn't blame them, because who would suspect a daughter could so brazenly fabricate lies to accuse her own mother? This situation called for a taste of her own medicine. I grabbed my phone and sent a message to a small company chat group, then slapped my thigh hard and also knelt on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Fia, I can't believe you made up such stories just to skip school. I won't make you study for high school anymore. If you want to play games all night or flirt with boyfriends online, I won't say a word. So all 7 subjects combined only got 100 points. I won't blame you, my dear. I'll sell the house and use the money for you to study abroad. Without letting her react, I pulled her into a tight hug, pressing her close to my chest. My sweet, obedient daughter, I regret pushing you so hard with your studies that it broke you. From now on, you can do whatever you want. I won't say a word. She was squeezed so tight she almost fainted, struggling before finally breaking free. Hearing my words, she cheered joyfully. Really, Mom? I immediately told her to get a pen and paper to write a guarantee that I wouldn't force her to study anymore. She happily picked up the paper, put it in her bag, and then held out her hand as if it were a matter of course. Mom, give me 500,001. My guild has a match tonight and I want to buy a cool skin to be the center of attention. I rummaged through my wallet. I only had a little over 100,001. I don't have enough money. Can I give it to you next month when I get my salary? she frowned, snatching the small change from my hand, her voice dripping with disdain. Mom, why are you so poor? You're useless. Fatty's mom gives him tens of millions for petty expenses, but you don't even have 500,000? I'm so unlucky to have you as my mother. She then turned to me. Mom, if you're out of money, go borrow from your colleagues. She forced a smile and walked straight towards the group of colleagues who had spoken up for her yesterday. Uncle, Auntie, can you lend me 500,001? My mom will pay you back when she gets her salary. But with every step she took, the colleagues retreated a step, looking at her as if she were a plague. This was because I had previously messaged the company group that my daughter suffered from severe bipolar disorder with aggressive tendencies, asking everyone to keep their distance. Unable to borrow money, she threw herself into a trash can in the corner of the room, crying as she walked away. I covered my face, pretending to cry in agony. The colleagues who had criticized me earlier now patted my shoulder, comforting me. I can't believe your daughter is so ill. You should take her for treatment soon. Oh, if my child were like that, I'd go crazy. She's using her illness as an excuse to torment her mother. I only shook my head. In this life, I wished for nothing more than for her to be peaceful and healthy. Seeing this, no one said anything further. Somehow, this story reached my boss. He gave me 3 days leave to handle family matters. Unlike my past life, when I was scorned and shunned by colleagues, now they encouraged me, telling me to calmly handle everything and then return to work. As I thanked them, I handed over my tasks to a colleague, joy surging within me. After returning home, Fia secretly took my phone and called her homeroom teacher, announcing she was taking time off school. I pretended as if nothing had happened. All day, she lingered in internet cafes, only returning home for dinner as usual. Previously, for my daughter's health, I always tried to find delicious and nutritious food. But now, I simply ordered takeout. I asked her what she wanted to eat, and she unhesitatingly rattled off a list of high-calorie items. Hamburger for breakfast, fried chicken for lunch, pizza for dinner, just like that. I no longer maintained the habit of cleaning the house 3 times a day, letting her pile up trash right outside her room door. She didn't throw it out, and I didn't bother touching it. Once, she came home from playing and accidentally stepped on the pile of trash outside her door. Enraged, she ran to my room, banging loudly on the door. Mom, what's wrong with you lately? You're so lazy, you don't take out the trash, you don't cook dinner. What are you living for? She snapped. I don't want to eat junk food. Eating like this makes me feel awful. I want a proper meal tonight. Looking at her irritated face, I yawned, rubbed my eyes, and calmly said, What's the big deal? Just let the trash pile up, then clean it all at once. Didn't you used to complain that I constantly cleaned your room and messed up your things? And when I cooked, you said it was boring. Now, I won't interfere. You're free to do as you please. But I'm not used to this. I want it to go back to how it was before. After hearing this, she shook her head, sat there stunned, then quickly picked up the trash and threw it away. Before leaving, she didn't forget to leave a message. Lazy people like you should just stay cooped up at home. I won't bother picking up trash either. That evening, there was finally a meal on the table, but it was all takeout, nothing special. She casually ate a few bites and then left. It had been a long time since I'd gone out to throw away trash when I overheard the elderly people in the neighborhood whispering, Fia is such a good girl. Who would have thought she'd end up with a mother like that? I heard she's bipolar and got fired from her company. Now she just stays home and sleeps all day. Poor Fia, so young and already having to work part-time to make a living. Hearing this, I walked straight up to them, feigning surprise. Oh, so Fia hasn't been to school lately. Seeing their flustered expressions, I added, that day, she suddenly ran to my company, crying desperately. I immediately felt something was wrong. It seems she's been under too much academic stress, causing a mental breakdown, or she's haunted by strange memories, like me hitting and scolding her for bad grades or forcing her to fast. The doctor said it's severe delusional disorder. That's why I took a few days off to stay home and look after her. I also reflected on myself. Perhaps I indulged her too much before. Now I can indulge her wishes to eat whatever she wants as long as she doesn't get more agitated. If you hear her say such things, please don't believe her. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, an old woman hastily made a phone call. Husband, come home quickly. Don't go to the Women's Association anymore. This is just a misunderstanding. I smirked. Just adding salt and pepper, that's all. She can talk and I can talk, but the words of adults are surely more convincing than a child's. As expected, the rumor of Fia suffering from bipolar disorder and constantly fabricating stories was absolutely believed by my colleagues and neighbors. The next day, I proactively called her homeroom teacher to inquire about my daughter's situation at school. The teacher responded in surprise. "What? Oh, Fia has been on sick leave for over half a month, saying she had the flu. Didn't you inform me?" I asserted that I had never sent any message. After exchanging information, the teacher realized something was amiss. Eventually, they found Fia at an internet cafe near the school and brought her back. After a few phone calls, I also arrived at the school. Just as I was about to open the door to the teacher's lounge, I heard Fia's desperate cries from inside. "Sir, it's so suffocating at home, I want to run away. My mom has a mental disorder. She forces me to get perfect scores in every subject. If I'm even 1 point short, she confiscates my food. Last time I failed an exam, I had to starve for 3 days, so hungry I had to go outside and pick wild vegetables to eat. I know Mom does this for my own good, but the more she does it, the more I fear studying. The internet cafe is the only place where I feel comfortable. If you don't believe me, you can ask Mom's colleagues or the people in our neighborhood. Everyone knows about this. But I don't want Mom to go to jail. I'll beg everyone to keep this a secret. Please, teachers, don't call the police. Mom won't go to jail." The homeroom teacher sternly replied, "No, this is domestic violence. We are obliged to report it." Hearing this, I pushed the door open, my face pale after carefully applying makeup. I slapped my daughter hard right in front of everyone. Fia clutched her face, hid behind the homeroom teacher, and screamed, "See, my mom really is crazy." I ignored her. Instead, in front of all the teachers, I called my colleagues and the neighborhood security guard. "Yes, thank you for your concern. I found Fia. Oh, did she get sick at the company the other day? Now her old illness has relapsed. Luckily, her homeroom teacher found her. She skipped school to play at an internet cafe and then lied, saying I hit her." After hanging up, I turned to the homeroom teacher, chuckling. "I apologize. It was my oversight." She secretly borrowed my phone and then requested sick leave. When you called back, I thought she had run away from home, so I asked my colleagues and the security guard to help search for her. They even planned to call the police. I wonder if Fia told you about me hitting her. She used to go to my company and the neighborhood and say the same thing. After asking around, everyone realized it wasn't true. I started to feel something was wrong, so I called again and realized she was skipping school and lying everywhere. Fia's eyes were practically rolling back in anger. "Don't believe her. She's lying to you, teachers. This is brainwashing." I calmly pinched her cheek. Her face had become quite round after half a month of eating nothing but fast food. "You've been eating so well at home, gaining 5 kg in just half a month. How could you have been starved for 3 days, Fia? If you keep this up, don't blame me for hitting you. By then, don't say you can't take it anymore. Perhaps I'll be the one to die first." The homeroom teacher and all the other teachers collectively scolded Fia for a long time, then told me to take her home and discipline her. Fia's eyes turned red with anger, her whole body trembling. I knew she was about to snap, feeling exhausted and out of breath. She lunged, aiming for the homeroom teacher's bald head, and screamed, "You bald old man, you're just like my mom. How dare you mess with me, you hateful old man. Your teaching is awful, your voice is so annoying, I don't want to listen to you. No." The more agitated she became, the more out of control her words were, making listeners want to wring her neck. This irrational state, if not bipolar disorder, then what was it? The homeroom teacher, nearing retirement, had never encountered such a situation. He was so angry he almost fainted and had to quickly take his heart medication. I quickly apologized, expressing my regret, then carried my daughter out of the school. Going down the stairs, my daughter suddenly said she needed to use the restroom. She quickly ran off. I stood waiting at the top of the stairs for a while, my legs starting to feel numb. Just then, a strong push came from behind me. "Shenyue, go die?" I had been prepared. When my legs felt numb, I had braced myself against the handrail, so although I staggered slightly, I didn't fall. Instead, my daughter stumbled, screaming in pain as if someone had stabbed her. This sound attracted the homeroom teacher and several people nearby. Fia's eyes burned with indignation as she screamed, "Everyone, come quickly. My mom tried to kill me." Of course, the teacher and everyone else didn't believe her, but this area was still a blind spot for the surveillance cameras. Suddenly, a luxuriously dressed woman appeared and said, "I'll testify. Fia isn't lying, she's the one who abused her." My daughter immediately rushed into the woman's arms, calling out desperately, "Mom, you're finally here. You don't know, after Dad went on a business trip to Africa, this woman constantly tormented me and tried to kill me. Well, of course, with a stepmother, there'll be a stepfather. This woman tormented me in every way possible, and Dad didn't even bother to come back to see me." The woman, seeing everyone staring, introduced herself. "I am Lynn, Fia's biological mother. According to her, I was the third party who broke up her home. My husband, Ethan, was also an evil stepmother who frequently abused Fia. I had no desire for the two of them to adopt each other. I just smiled." Regardless of where this woman came from, this fresh story was quite intriguing. Lynn and Fia embraced tightly, their eyes burning with such resentment as if they wanted to devour me whole. The homeroom teacher and everyone else were stunned. "Ms. Shen, are you Fia's stepmother?" I didn't deny it. Since my daughter wanted to replace me and had found a biological mother, I indulged her. I sighed. Being a stepmother these days is truly difficult. If you're strict, they say you're cruel. If you're not, they say you're stingy. Whatever you do, it's never enough. "Lynn, you abandoned your poor husband to study abroad, leaving Fia uncared for. Has the village suddenly struck gold that you've so quickly returned to claim your child? For all these years, our house and phone number haven't changed. If you truly loved your child, you would have had the chance to return. Just like today, coming directly to the school wouldn't have been difficult. So, if you two are so united, I'll hand over Fia's care entirely to you. I won't interfere." Who knew she would push me, almost causing my death, and then accuse me of attempted murder? I suspected Lynn was a hired actress, fabricating a clear identity. So I went with the flow, inventing another story to guide them. With that, I walked a few steps to the corner of the room, picked up the phone I had already placed on the desk, and started recording a video of Fia actively approaching me, then subtly reaching out. I looked at Lynn, her biological mother. Her face was blank. Lately, Fia has been coming up with all sorts of malicious tricks. I had already prepared by placing my phone there. The moment she used the restroom as an excuse, it finally paid off. Initially, I wanted to advise you not to spoil your child, but as the saying goes, if the root is twisted, so will be the branch. Perhaps I've been overthinking. With that, I bowed to the teachers and everyone else, then walked away, leaving the two of them surrounded by contemptuous stares. Thinking that I wouldn't have to attend parent-teacher meetings anymore, I was so happy I almost burst out laughing. Other parents enjoyed parent-teacher meetings, but for me, it felt like being put on trial, always being scolded by teachers until I couldn't lift my head. Now that someone else would do it for me, I would definitely not interfere. From now on, Lynn would be Fia's biological mother, and I, the wicked stepmother, would withdraw from their lives. The next day, when I returned home from work, it was no surprise to see my mother-in-law, who should have been in the countryside, suddenly appearing at the gate of our apartment complex. She was embracing my daughter and sobbing uncontrollably. "My sweet grandchild, you've suffered so much. Why did that wretched woman dare to hit you at school?" Lynn also stood beside her, explaining her identity. "I am Fia's biological mother. After I got pregnant, I went to work, but I never expected that woman to harm me. She and Ethan were former colleagues. During a wedding, she seduced Ethan and even threatened that if he didn't divorce me, she would report him to the police for rape, making Fia a child born of a crime. We had no other choice but to file for divorce. Because Ethan felt guilty towards me, he didn't return home after marrying her and went back to work abroad. But I never expected her to not want me to see Fia anymore. What angered me most was that she tormented Fia and spread rumors at work, in the apartment complex, and at school. All of our reputations were ruined." Hearing this, my mother-in-law furiously grabbed a stick and walked towards me. "You heartless woman, how dare you think that just because I'm in the countryside, you can freely bully Fia? Little Lynn has told me everything. Get out, I'm calling my son home right now to divorce you." My daughter cowered in Lynn's arms. The moment she saw me, she looked terrified. Lynn quickly pulled my daughter's arm, took a deep breath, and tears streamed down. Under my daughter's arm were numerous fresh wounds. How pitiful. "You piece of trash," my mother-in-law glared at my face and cursed. When evidence of domestic violence appeared, everyone began to doubt. Some even wanted to call the police. But as they say, 3 women make a drama, and their acting was not exactly subtle. My daughter knelt, kowtowed a few times, then stood up and told everyone, "Let's forget about the past. After all, Mom raised me for several years." Her act of forgiveness made everyone look at her with pity. What a good child. "You've suffered so much, and you're so understanding. If my son's wife wasn't like you, I would be overjoyed, unable to eat or sleep. Don't be afraid. If anyone bullies you again, we'll help you chase them away. This apartment complex had many kind-hearted people, always ready to help when there was a commotion, but they were also very easily taken advantage of. I pointed to the fresh wounds on my daughter's arm. Call the police quickly. How can we ignore this? This is real evidence. This arm also has faint marks. We can take samples to compare. Who knows, we might find cellular tissue or traces under someone's fingernails. That way, we'll definitely find out who the perpetrator is. Lynn unconsciously stuffed her hand into her pocket. I sneered, took out my phone, and continued to dial. My daughter frantically lunged and snatched my phone, crying out, "Shen Yue, initially I only gave you some face out of respect for raising me, but now you've caused such a scene. Don't blame me for telling the truth." The evidence she had was a blurry photo. Unclear who was in it, only a back view. Next to it were my name and the neighbor, Mr. Evans. The evidence she presented was merely a blurry photo that couldn't identify anything. My name and Mr. Evans's name were just written in black ink. The elderly people in the apartment complex, wearing sunglasses, stared for a long time but couldn't see anything. They said the figures looked somewhat similar. Domestic violence and infidelity are behaviors that can completely ruin a person's reputation, and Mr. Evans, the neighbor, was unmarried and currently working far away, unable to defend himself. My mother-in-law could no longer restrain herself. She took out her phone and called her son abroad. At first, the other end didn't answer, but after she kept calling, he finally picked up. She said, "Son, I can't take it anymore. Come back quickly so I can see you one last time." In this situation, there was nothing I could do. I offered a cold smile and walked away. In the distance, my daughter and Lynn were embracing and crying uncontrollably, a touching scene of mother and daughter reuniting. Leaving the apartment complex, I immediately called a real estate agent to sell the house. The house deeds had already been taken by me and hidden in my personal drawer at work. That night, I stayed at my friend's house. I turned on the living room camera system and saw the three of them eating hot pot. My daughter laughed and said, "Finally got rid of that useless woman. Don't worry, Auntie Lynn. If Dad had married you back then, he wouldn't have been so angry and gone abroad, never to return. Dad's coming back soon and then I'll make him marry you. That useless woman will have to leave with nothing." Lynn smiled shyly next to her. My mother-in-law held Lynn's hand. The more I watched, the more contempt I felt. Taking advantage of Fia going to the restroom, my mother-in-law whispered to Lynn, "I also hope you can give me a grandson. Later, the O family will have a successor. If you bear a child, I'll give you 100,000 yuan." With that, Lynn urged the two to go to their room while she went to clean the living room. But when the door was slightly ajar, she immediately threw the cleaning cloth on the floor. I saw her take out her phone and call someone. How easily fooled are that brat and the old woman. Do they really think I'll treat them kindly? It's fine. If I marry Ethan, the first thing I'll do is send those two back to the countryside so Ethan and I can travel everywhere. Can I not be excited? I've liked Ethan since college, but he never noticed me. Ask Ethan why he hasn't returned for so many years. It's definitely because he despises that fat girl. And the one who drugged him that day was me. His company held a party at my friend's bar. I planned to marry Ethan, but I didn't expect that *TCH to be quicker than me. Not long after Ethan got married, he was transferred for a business trip. My family forced me to go on blind dates. Actually, I didn't mean to, but heaven had eyes. My husband died in a car accident, and then I received his ex-girlfriend's daughter. Now I'm single. When Ethan comes back, he'll also be single. We can completely resume our old relationship, picking up a delayed love. Besides, we're getting older. That old woman has 10 million, but she doesn't know I can't get pregnant. Later, I'll pretend to be pregnant to swindle money and kick her out. Don't worry, wait for the wedding wine. She's so stupid, so easy to fool. Now I have to pretend to be nice to them and make them think of ways to get rid of that *TCH. After making the call, Lynn went into the bedroom to search for things, but she was disappointed. All the valuables had already been taken by me. I still had a hidden camera installed in the living room. I never expected that the unexpected relationship between Ethan and me all those years ago had been a calculated scheme by Lynn. After her husband died, Lynn saw that my daughter didn't like me, so she hatched a plan. My daughter, not thinking clearly, believed her lies, thinking that her father had abandoned me, and that's why he didn't come home. Lynn even encouraged my daughter to act that way, unaware that there was a different story behind it. My daughter loved her father very much. Even though he didn't come home or call during Lunar New Year, she believed he loved her. All of this was because I had built an image of a good father for her since she was little. Ethan and I married to have a child. 2 months after a night together, I found out I was pregnant and asked Ethan for his opinion. At that time, his family pressured him, and he lied to me, saying he would take responsibility as a good husband and father. Since I was an orphan from a young age and always longed for a family, I agreed to Ethan's proposal after seeing the ultrasound. After we married, I discovered that Ethan had homosexual tendencies, and when I saw him call another man wife, I truly couldn't believe it. He had lied to me to get married, so I intended to sue him. But at that time, our child needed her father's signature to be recognized. Ethan threatened me that if I revealed our marriage, our child would face trouble. For my daughter, I had to compromise. The result was that Ethan would go on a long-term business trip and not return home unless absolutely necessary. He wouldn't have to endure pressure from his mother, so he could freely enjoy a happy life abroad. The house was in my name, and he had to provide child support until our daughter finished college. For years, I lived in a marriage like a widow. For my daughter, I endured countless insults from my mother-in-law. But when my daughter started kindergarten and asked for her father, I could only invent beautiful lies to deceive her. So, through my stories, the image of her father was always good. Every year on my daughter's birthday, I would buy 2 gifts, one sent in Ethan's name. The money Ethan sent me was for my protection. I hoped that later, after my daughter finished her exams, I would tell her the truth and give her that money to manage herself. It was a considerable sum, but currently the money was mine. I had no intention of telling that wide-eyed wolf about it. In just a few days, Ethan would return, and the hopes of those 3 would shatter. I truly looked forward to it. At the entrance of the Justice Department, I held the house deed, ready to go. My daughter and mother-in-law were surrounding Ethan, talking noisily. Ethan pushed them away and walked towards me, then stopped. I smiled and said, "That's enough. The house is already mine. I won't say anything else." My mother-in-law's face instantly turned ugly when she heard the words, "the house." "What do you mean the house is for you? You didn't give me a single penny, son. Why do you keep getting tricked like this?" My daughter looked at her father, confused, and said, "Mom, we're divorced. Why do you still get to keep the house?" Everyone around us looked at me. I waved my hand and said, "Don't look anymore. I'm her stepmother. She did everything she could to get her biological parents back together. Now that everything's successful and we're divorced, the house belongs to me. She even wants to falsely accuse me of infidelity and kick me out empty-handed." Back then, her parents divorced, her mother went off with someone else, and her father stayed abroad for over 10 years without returning. I raised her single-handedly, and even raising a dog these days develops affection. It's a pity she couldn't even manage that. I had prepared these words for a long time, practically memorized them. So, I said it all in one breath, giving my daughter no chance to add fuel to the fire. A month later, Lynn achieved her wish and proposed to Ethan. This was all thanks to my mother-in-law's intervention. She forced Ethan to concede, crying and even threatening suicide. Finally, Ethan couldn't help but give in. When we finalized the divorce, I told Ethan that he no longer needed to go on long-term business trips. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief and immediately asked the company to transfer him back to work domestically. This action of his also sent a signal to my daughter and others. They thought that because of Lynn, Ethan stayed in the country. Lynn also thought the same. She used her house as their shared residence and personally prepared the wedding. Ethan didn't prepare anything at all. Everything was simple. But even so, in everyone's eyes, Lynn seemed to be a beautiful and virtuous woman. She assumed Ethan was shy and didn't want to do anything after marriage. After they married, Ethan used the excuse of working overtime to not come home. In reality, he would just leave on time every day and go to a bar. How did I know this? I learned it from his current lover. I took the money Ethan provided for my daughter's upbringing and used it to find a man who could satisfy all of Ethan's needs. Ethan had coincidentally met this man on his return flight. One dropped something, the other picked it up. That's how they met and started dating. Ethan wasn't going out because he had found a new partner. He was completely captivated by this man because the man had everything Ethan desired, from his dressing habits and daily routines to his hobbies and idols. This man had completely drawn him into his trap. All I can say is Ethan was willing to spend $150,000 on this man for half a month. That money was truly worth it. Half a month later, the man deliberately left clear hickey marks on Ethan's neck, while Lynn was treated terribly, forced to cook and wash clothes for her stepdaughter and mother-in-law every day. Seeing these hickeys caused her to have a mental breakdown. She began to scream and make a commotion. Ethan immediately ran out. My daughter, with many malicious thoughts, suggested investigating. The plan to catch them in the act was recorded and sent directly to my phone. In the hotel on the bed, Lynn was hugging Ethan, calling him her husband. "Who is she? Tell me." On the other side, another man, equally undressed, was clinging to Ethan, calling him husband. "Who is this old hag? Look at her rough skin, all that makeup can't hide the blemishes on her face. It's truly haunting." Lynn was 40 years old, so of course, she couldn't compare to a youthful and vibrant woman in her 20s. She was furious, but the most enraged person was my daughter. She lunged, intending to curse the man. "What kind of creature are you? This is my dad. What are you calling him? Husband." My daughter hated homosexuals, and the image of her ideal father suddenly becoming gay shocked her the most. But what shocked her even more was that, as the two argued, Ethan chose the man over his own daughter. "Wife, are you okay?" Ethan, terrified, covered the man's face. At that moment, my mother-in-law burst in as if insane. "Oh, my son, you despicable wretch, our family is ruined." She collapsed to the floor, weeping. My daughter quickly comforted her. "Grandma, Dad is just a little sick. We'll take him to the doctor." "What are you thanking her for? She's Dad's wife and she's pregnant. I even gave her 100,000 yuan. My mother-in-law was overjoyed, but her happiness didn't last long, as her son poured cold water on it. "I didn't do anything to her." Just then, the man took out the documents I had given him and smiled. "I recognize her. I saw this woman at the gynecologist's clinic with another man, getting treatment." My mother-in-law frantically rushed over and pulled at Lynn's clothes, wanting to expose her body, but Lynn pushed her away, saying angrily, "Don't blame me. It's because your son is impotent and never touched me. I never expected your son to be a homosexual. I must have been blind to love him for so many years. Now pack your things and get out of my house. The 100,000 yuan is for my emotional damages." My mother-in-law collapsed onto the bed, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. My daughter saw this and quickly ran after Lynn. "Wait, Mom, you have to take me with you too." Lynn turned and fiercely kicked my daughter's leg, her face full of affectionate disdain. "I'm not your mother. Your mother is that woman named Shen Yue. Honestly, every time I see you, you look so much like that mother of yours, it disgusts me." Lynn spat towards Ethan and then left. My daughter turned back to her father, but Ethan didn't pay much attention to her, focusing instead on the wound on the man's hand, preparing to take him to the hospital. "Husband, you're amazing. Kiss me," the two said, holding hands as they left. My daughter angrily grabbed a hanger nearby and swung it at the man's head. "You devil, give me back my dad right now." My daughter was restrained by Ethan, pushed away, and her foot hit the bed frame, breaking in a strange position. She screamed in agony. That evening, I received a call from the hospital. It turned out the woman who cleaned the hotel room had brought my daughter and mother-in-law to the hospital. My mother-in-law had suffered a stroke, and only her eyes could move, while my daughter had a severe leg fracture. The hotel, for humanitarian reasons, had advanced some money, but the future treatment costs would be very high. Without much thought, I gave them 2 phone numbers to contact her parents. I explained that I was a stepmother who had already changed my residence registration and was now divorced from her husband, so I had no contact with them. The other party replied that they had already contacted them, and both said it was the wrong number. It turned out that upon learning he had caused his mother's stroke and his daughter's broken leg, Ethan had fled abroad. Of course, I had booked his flight tickets in advance. The other person, seeing his face, gave Ethan the tickets, bought him a gift, and took him on a several-week vacation abroad. What a pity, everyone contacted the wrong people. "Everyone, quickly call the police." My daughter's voice rang out from the other end of the line. "Mom, I was wrong. Now I know you love me. I'm almost dying from the pain, Mom, help me. This hospital won't perform surgery if we don't pay. You're the best mom, cooking meals, washing clothes for me every day, taking me to the park, helping me with my studies. Now I realize you love me, but it's too late now." I coldly retorted, "You've called the wrong person. I used to be a wicked stepmother, but now I'm not even a stepmother anymore. I have no obligation to pay hospital bills. Don't bother me." With that, I hung up and deactivated my phone card. However, hospital bills couldn't just magically disappear. After Ethan received the news, he hid abroad and didn't return. He didn't want to see his mother, who had suffered a stroke, nor his daughter with a broken leg. He stayed abroad, playing with his boyfriend. Why should I return to be a babysitter for trouble? I had already completed my immigration procedures. I immediately packed my luggage and left. But Lynn couldn't escape. She remained in the country, still using the title of Fia's biological mother. My daughter had wanted to replace her mother, so when Lynn and Ethan registered their marriage, I had transferred my household registration back to our home. When she was found, Lynn said she truly had no money. She called a taxi to take my daughter and mother-in-law back to the countryside. The hospital and investigators couldn't do anything when Lynn's bank account genuinely had no money. But not long after, Lynn took my daughter back. That day, a video of my daughter crying and complaining about me abandoning her appeared online. Lynn held the camera, standing beside her, saying, "Her mother is now running abroad to enjoy herself with the money from selling the house. Please, uncles and aunties, please help this child find her mother. Please, I beg you." As the first video was being broadcast, another video appeared. It was my response to being accused of abandoning my daughter. That day, my daughter and Lynn both called me an evil stepmother. The entire neighborhood had testified. The online community remembered it very clearly. They even recognized Lynn and my daughter as true biological mother and daughter. I had arranged for someone to record that moment. Afterwards, I called my daughter's homeroom teacher and the company staff who had an unfavorable impression of her. They all testified that my daughter was Lynn's child and had a history of emotional dysregulation. As a result, public opinion completely changed. Unlike my past life, where I was slandered even in death, this time, everyone sympathized with me. My daughter, no longer useful, was sold by Lynn to her creditors. In reality, Lynn hadn't planned to do this. It was simply because she had lost a significant amount of money in gambling debts. When she moved to the current city, she was arrested. A kind, anonymous person, me, spent a considerable sum to contact Lynn's creditors. The creditors, gangsters, demanded she cut off a finger to repay her debt. Lynn was burdened with high-interest credit card debt, accruing daily. She had mortgaged her house but still couldn't repay the debt. A few days later, my daughter's body was abandoned in a trash can. Lynn, engrossed in gambling, trying to find a way to return to her previous life, was taken away by the police for investigation on charges of filicide. My mother-in-law, who had suffered a stroke and was immobile, had already begun to decompose by the time the police arrived. I had settled abroad. The man I had arranged to romance Ethan had absconded with all his wealth and fled after a month. He even took Ethan's ID card and passport. Ethan was now a stateless person, wandering the streets, receiving social welfare. Once, while on a business trip to the embassy, I saw a thin, strangely shaped man with a gaunt face. He looked very familiar. I asked the driver and learned that the entire street was full of drug users. I told the driver to turn around and find another road. After that, I never wanted to see Ethan again. Perhaps he had died in some corner, unnoticed by anyone.